What is up, hashtag FURRYPACK, and welcome to a brand new video. And here, we are just going ahead and playing some CSGO, as you could tell. Some arms race. If I sound pretty sick or something just wrong with my voice, well, I just clearly said it. I'm sick as hell. Like, very, very sick, actually. But, I'm feeling a little well, so I decided I'm gonna record here, and that's what I'm doing. So yeah, and I'm obviously playing some CSGO. However, I do actually got a bit of a topic for tonight. So, as you see in the title, I put spicy GPU. And what that wants to go ahead and mean is, tonight's topic is about GPUs, graphics cards. Because I thought it would be pretty interesting to actually share this type of information, this type of knowledge, out with, those other people in the PC world that, are getting their very first ever graphics card. Maybe they're upgrading to a newer graphics card, right? Building a PC for your first time or something, or maybe you already built your PC, but you're getting, temps that are too concerning and too warning for you. Now, I myself have an RX 580, it's an AMD graphics card, and it's actually a really good GPU. This thing could go ahead and easily game any game I so choose to, just fine without any issues. Very, very easily, just have a great time, play, 1080p max settings. I could actually go to 2K on some games. Some games even support 4K, which is really cool without an issue. However, AMD graphics cards do tend to go ahead and be a little on the hot side, unless you go ahead and have a pretty mean, fan curve, or you have really good airflow in your case, to keep it nice and cool. But majority of the time, they're pretty spicy. However, I recently got in, this is my first ever RX 580 that I own. And, mine's actually pretty spicy. I mean, when I try to play some, pretty intense, games, and when I say intense, I mean, some games that really will make it work. For example, the brand new Battlefield 5, the GPU temps would actually get pretty spicy, and I could see it go up into the 80s. Now, normally that's pretty fine, it's pretty normal. A lot of GPUs would actually reach around 85 and below, and they'll be really fine. That's not a problem at all. But once you start getting into the 90 range, that's when you start getting pretty concerned. Hey, something's wrong, And that goes as far with any GPU, to be honest, not just on AMD, even some NVIDIA graphics cards, right, would actually get pretty spicy. And so, one thing that I actually realized was this. If you're playing a game, let's say for example this game, CSGO, and let's say you go ahead and max out your settings at 1080p, at ultra settings 1080, right? And you have your frame rate at unlimited. That is actually going to be one of the problems of getting a really hot temp. Your GPU is not just, getting overworked because you're playing at max settings, at a high resolution, but the fact that you have your temps at unlimited, even if you have, and let's say you only have a 60 hertz monitor or a 75 hertz monitor, right? And it doesn't matter, you just feel like keeping your frame rate, uncapped and just keeping it at unlimited. Because it's at unlimited, it will go ahead and actually make your GPU work more than what it needs to, compared to it being, capped to a certain frame rate. And because of that, it will actually go ahead and, start to produce more heat on the GPU. Because it's being worked more, it's being pushed, to its limit. More power will be drawn just to go ahead and try to get the highest possible frame rate it possibly can, since you have it at unlimited. Now, if you go ahead and cap your FPS, let's say you have a 60 hertz monitor and you cap it to at the very least just 75, a little bit more than what you need, you're actually going to reduce temperature quite a lot. And that's only because your GPU, it's only going to go ahead and just make your game playable at that capped frame rate. And all that extra power will not be getting drawn by that GPU. It won't draw more power, and it also won't downclock itself once it gets too hot, because it's not pushing itself too extreme. In fact, instead of it even being at 100% workload, it might even drop how much your GPU is being used. I mean, you could be playing a game and your GPU might be at 100% when you have it on unlimited, but once you cap your game, you might actually notice that you actually went from 100% to maybe like a 70% workload, because your GPU is not forced to work as hard.
Yeah.
Random people talking in my game. But yeah, you know, it's quite interesting. And I actually ended up calling, the GPU manufacturer for my specific model of my RX 580, which is XFX, because I wanted to see what their thoughts were, and I wanted to see if they could go ahead and help me keep my temps down, because you know, I went ahead and I'm the type of person that when I first built the PC, I just liked keeping all my games, you know, at unlimited, because I didn't really realize that will produce more heat, that will go ahead and actually be a problem on the GPU. And all of yesterday, right, I did a bunch of, you know, stress testing. I did a bunch of like benchmarks. I played a whole lot of different games in the different settings, from 1080p medium all the way to ultra, you know, and then from playing from 1080p to 2K and 4K, just to see the average on frame rate and also even the heat produced by the GPU. Now, whenever I was playing at 1080p ultra settings, the GPU will actually stay pretty chill at a nice 74, you know, 75, which is normal on an AMD card, because AMD cards do run a little harder than something like a NVIDIA card. So if I go ahead and pick a card that's matched to this 580, that would be the GTX 1060 from NVIDIA. And the GTX 1060 will probably be averaging around, you know, somewhere around like, you know, let's say 65, you know. Well, on AMD, you're gonna be around 77, just a tad bit hotter, but that is normal operating temps under full load. And that was a 1080p Ultra. However, I had my temps capped at 75 because my monitors are only running at 60 Hz. So I went ahead and just put my games set to 75 as their limit, and it keeps my clock speed without downgrading at any point throughout the entire 1 hour sessions of each game. And you know, it runs fine, you know, it's pretty cool. However, the second that I go ahead and, you know, switch from being 1080 Ultra to, let's say, 2K, right, at Ultra, and I have it capped at 75, it will obviously produce more heat because you're at a higher resolution. The GPU is going to go ahead and work more. Just because of that, you know, it's going to go ahead and push out 2K resolution instead of 1080p resolution. So I saw temp increase by just a few bit, not actually too high. So I went from 75, you know, or like a 77 or so, to now just being around just 80, just plain old 80. So it only went up just a few degrees, not very high, not very much. And, you know, the GPU still ran really fine. And the very first game I was testing, and the main current game I was testing was, you know, Battlefield 5, because that's the latest game that's new that I have on the PC that would actually test out the performance pretty well. And it was actually quite interesting to see that. However, the second I go ahead and put, let's say, you know, my frame rate from 75 Hz cap locked and go ahead and, you know, place it to unlimited, right, it would actually go ahead and increase temp. And that's because the GPU is going to be forced to work more than what it needs to be. It's going to go ahead and be forced to literally go ahead and actually, you know, just stress itself out, because it's trying to reach the highest possible frame count it can. So let's say on average your GPU would normally only hit, let's say, 100 FPS on average, right, on any game. Well, when you have it on unlimited, your GPU, even though it knows its power limit, you know, its potential that it could, its full potential that it could use, even though it may know what it's capable of handling, it's still going to go ahead and try to push itself hard enough to reach that one extra frame over that 100. And because of that, it will start drawing more power from your power supply, and because of the more power increase, obviously it's going to go ahead and generate more heat in your computer, and it's going to go ahead and make the GPU lifespan actually drop a little bit. But so it doesn't go overboard on the heat, and it doesn't eventually, you know, kill itself and fry itself, and next thing you know, you have like literally just a GPU that's literally on fire, and it like just kills your whole computer, or your computer shuts down because of high temperature. what is it? It will actually downclock itself ever so slightly, just to go ahead and, what is it, reduce heat. And obviously the fans would also kick in to a higher RPM just to reduce that heat. But there's other little things to point out. It doesn't just depend on whether your games are actually set on like a very high resolution and you have let's say medium settings or ultra settings. It also depends on your case airflow. So if you have a, let's say a what is it, ITX case, one of those super small form factor cases that are like literally a shoebox size, that thing better have the top of the line fans, and you better have each single fan slot that you can fit like full, because if you don't have good airflow, it's gonna suffocate itself. It has to have a lot of airflow. And if you have something like a standard size, micro ATX, or not micro ATX, what is it, mid tower ATX, or I guess a micro as well, or a full ATX case, something that's a little bigger than your normal standard ITX cases that are like shoebox sizes. If you have something that's bigger, right, it won't be much of a problem, and you don't have to have the most top of the line fans, but it's still recommended to make sure you have, at least one or two, front fans, and maybe, and another one or two, like, top fans. You want to make sure you got a couple fans in the PC case, make sure it has enough air, flowing through, and has a good circle flow through, where air is just going, equally everywhere throughout the entire case, to go ahead and provide the best cooling performance. Because if you do not have good airflow, and hot air is not making its way out of the case, and it's getting mixed around with the cold air that's getting blown in, it's going to obviously go ahead and cause that GPU to stress itself out a little bit, because a lot of the hot air that is trying to blow out of the case is going to be stuck in there. And that's another thing about the cases, is when you buy in a case, you want to make sure the case itself has a lot of good ventilation. Like maybe the entire top is a huge giant vent. Maybe the whole entire front panel has a huge giant vents. You want to make sure air could go in and out of the case really easily. And you want to make sure that the case fans you have could go ahead and produce, a good average amount of air. You want some fans that if you set it on a table and you provide power, it will actually blow a piece of paper away. You want to make sure your fans are capable of blowing freaking paper away, to make sure that it can actually keep your case pretty nice, pretty cool. But that's a little bit of info on GPUs, and yet again, I clarify, if you have an AMD card, they do run a little spicier than, what is it, a NVIDIA card, but that's how they are meant to be, that's how they were created. They just draw a bit more power, but those are normal operating temperatures if you're around the 70s mark. But if you go anywhere higher than 85 Celsius or degrees or whatever, that's when you should be a little concerned, because you're in the yellow zone instead of the green zone. And you might have to go ahead and reapply some thermal paste. Maybe your fans are going bad, or you just don't have good airflow. So one way to test out your case airflow is to go ahead and, well, for one, I recommend running the stress test. So if you have something like 3D Mark, run like the Firestrike benchmark, and keep your case, what is it, like your front panel of the case, like the tempered glass or whatever, keep that on, right, during the very first test. And if you're, let's say you average, 80 Celsius, on that test, at the end of it, it got really spicy, go ahead and remove the tempered glass, and then run the test again and see if that dropped some degrees. And if it does, it might be your case. However, if you have your case fully closed and you run that test and you're just averaging around the 70 mark, for example on an AMD GPU, what is it? That means you're fine. Your GPU is fine. It's able to maintain, proper cooling. However, now for the second testing, run a game. Put it at, ultra settings. For example, let's say you have Battlefield 5 and you want to go ahead and, play, maxed out settings at 1080p. Do that. And check, you know how high the temps get. Get a tool, for example, like hardware monitor. What is it? Or you know, or any preferred tool that allows you to check, you know, your PC, you know, clock speeds and temps that you may have, and just go ahead and just monitor it. You know, play for at least a good half an hour to an hour. All you really need, you know, and you know, just go ahead and check what your temps are at. So if you're averaging, let's say 77 or something, right? What is it on temps? You're good to go. You're fine. But if you notice your GPU is getting really spicy around the 80s mark, you might want to go ahead and consider capping the game. So your first testing should be with the game, you know, obviously unlimited. And if unlimited is actually getting your GPU to be pretty spicy, cap your game to a little bit, slightly a little higher than what your monitors can handle. So if you have 60Hz monitors, try going ahead and capping your game to, you know, 75, you know. Pretty reasonable FPS. 15 more than what your monitor handles, you know. That gives you enough headroom to go ahead and play your game without screen tearing. And also, if you're recording as well, you know, or you're live streaming, that extra 15 FPS gives you enough headroom to go ahead and make sure you're going to stay really consistent on the FPS as well, without it dipping down, you know, below 60 and all that, because you've got 15 FPS to mess with. But you could go ahead and go a little higher if you want as well too. So instead of having 75, maybe you could go with 80, 90 or something. I would say 90 will probably be like the most reasonable, that and also the most highest you could really go to. So if you want, you could go ahead and choose to go just with a standard 90. That would be really, really smooth and really reasonable. So yeah. And if your temps go down when you cap your game, well, there you go. Just keep your game capped. Because, obviously, you know, it just needs it. And I would also like to mention this. This also will vary depending on games. Not every game is actually made the same with optimization and, you know, the way that the graphics are as well. So let's say you're playing something like CSGO, how I'm playing right now. You probably might see your temps are going to be way, way cooler and way more, what is it, you know, just cooler, right, on this game. But once you go ahead and play something like Battlefield 5, your temps are actually going to go ahead and increase. The CSGO is not very graphical demanding, you know, so this thing, you know, it won't even, like, my GPU is, you know, at a base clock at 1366, and in fact, I'm barely using, I believe, only, like, what, 1200 megahertz out of that 1366, just because I do not need to use its full potential power on this game. But the second I launch Battlefield 5, it's going to stay at its base clock speed, 1366, throughout the entire time, because that game's a little more demanding on its graphics. You know, it's visually more demanding of a game, and it looks nicer. You know, it's a AAA title budget game. It just makes sense. But it also depends on optimization for some games. There's some games out there that are really demanding on the visuals, but they're not very optimized. So even if you cap lock your game, you might actually still have some issues. So let's say like a brand new game, Atlas, you know, or maybe you're playing Ark, right? Maybe you're playing something like Rust, right? You know, maybe you're playing some of those type of games, and maybe you're playing like those kind of games, right? Those open world games, right? That could actually be really nice looking graphics in the game, but obviously those games are not very, very optimized at all. That would actually still go ahead and have pretty high temperatures while you're gaming. Those games will go ahead and make your GPU work. Even if you lower down your settings and you have it cap locked, it would still make your GPU work like crazy. It will go ahead and, you know, make it draw some more power, because those games are not very well optimized for the GPU to go ahead and, you know, have a relaxing time. So, yeah. But anyways, that's pretty much it for this video, you know. Nice, helpful knowledge of some info, you know. How to go ahead and manage cooling in your PC for your GPU. In fact, this will also even go ahead and work the same way for the CPU as well. So, for your CPU, I mean, you know, it's pretty much also the same way. I mean, if you have your settings cranked up higher, and you're playing a game that's more CPU demanding over the GPU, what is it? For example, GTA 5, not a super demanding game on the graphics, but it could be pretty demanding on the CPU, you know, here on the PC. And what is it? if you have that game cranked up pretty high, you know, let's say you're playing 1440, you know, ultra settings, you know, 2K, what is it? That CPU might get a little spicy, but if you go ahead and turn down the settings, or if you cap lock your game from being unlimited to, let's say, obviously like 90 FPS and just don't go higher than 90, you're gonna have a better time with the CPU not overheating and not stressing out. And, you know, that's some useful little knowledge on how to keep your PC pretty chill. You know, I myself was experiencing a little bit of high temps on my brand new, AMD card here, and obviously I'm not too worried about it because it's optimal temp. You know, this card can handle, you know, like I believe 95 Celsius, you know, 95 degrees, you know, it could go pretty high before it actually starts being a problem. And the highest I ever been to was just 85. And that's on 4K. That's on, you know, that's on like 4K, you know, games like GTA 5, you know, Battlefield 5, or 2K. You know, that's the highest I've ever seen it go to. You know. However, I seen it, but that's also when I have the game, you know, cap locked to like 90 FPS or 75 FPS as well. If I go ahead and leave it on unlimited, it's gonna draw more power, and obviously it's gonna go ahead and get a little spicier. But pretty normal for the GPU. Also, XFX, you know, the manufacturer of my specific model GPU, really great customer service actually. It only took probably like 30 seconds to actually get connected to one of the, you know, technical support people earlier when I called them to go ahead and get some extra information from them to see how, to see what the normal temperature for, you know, these graphics cards are. You know, I wanted to know what exactly the normal average temperature should be, and it turns out my temps are actually really normal, because I mean, again, I normally don't really monitor my temps at all, and I'm pretty sure the average person on PC doesn't really monitor the temps, especially if you're like brand new to PC. Maybe you just got a pre-built and didn't build your own PC, or maybe you just built your PC, but you don't really monitor your temps at all. You might not even know that your PC is a little spicy, right? But it can be, and, you know, their customer service was really great. You know, it took them really fast to connect, and also they were helpful in providing me a lot of information. In fact, they even told me this little also info. So if you're in the United States, if you want to go ahead and fix your GPU when it comes to thermals, because let's say it's been like a year or two, right? And your PC, you know, the thermal paste on the GPU actually got dried out, and it's no longer providing the best, you know, cooling at all, and it's making your fans work, you know, its ass off to go ahead and keep it pretty cool. You're actually allowed to void the sticker. You know, you're allowed to actually go ahead and open up the GPU and actually apply your own choice of thermal paste, and, you know, just go ahead and fix the thermal by reapplying it. That does not actually void your warranty. I was actually told that by, you know, the agent, which was really awesome. So if you ever have to reapply thermal paste, you're allowed to do that. So if you just happen to have a GPU where it's been like a year or two or something, and you want to fix the thermals, try reapplying the thermal paste. You're allowed to go ahead and do it without voiding your warranty. And in fact, it turns out that even my GPU actually has 5 years of warranty service to go ahead and actually get a full-on replacement, or just to get it repaired. And if my fans go bad but the GPU itself is still fine, I could actually get free replacements for fans any point in time, because the fans on my GPU are actually swappable and replaceable, which is really cool. They're really fast swappable fans, and at any time I want, I can actually replace the fans. So if it's not even the GPU itself, it's just the fans that went bad, you know, free replacements at any time you want. Even if I don't need fans right now for my PC, I could actually go ahead and ask them to send me fans right now, and they'll actually send it to me for free. So that's actually really cool. However, every manufacturer will be different. XFX is just my current GPU manufacturer, you know, because, you know, that's the type of, you know, GPU that I went with, and I'm really happy and really satisfied with the GPU. I could play, you know, 2K, you know, at ultra settings, or I could play some games at 4K, or I could just play 1080p ultra and actually be well over 100 FPS. However, I only have 60Hz monitors, so I have my games capped at 75 FPS, just because I don't want to go ahead and, have my PC too spicy. You know, because my thermals now, after capping my games and all that, you know, I'm just chilling at 70, being the highest that I ever get to, which is actually really nice, because now my GPU is really, really nice and cool, and even my CPU is pretty cool as well, because the highest my CPU gets to is, I believe, 46, which is really, really nice. You don't really want to have a CPU go over 60. However, you can go over 60 on a CPU, but a CPU is best recommended to stay at 60 or below. And I'm only at 46 on a CPU, so great. And that's under full load while playing the game, or editing the video and rendering. Anyways, that's going to be it for tonight's video, because, you know, it's been a pretty long video. I'm probably going to go ahead and put long video in the title, because, I don't know, or I might not, I'm not sure. And all I know is I'm going to put I'm sick, and obviously, you know, spicy GPU. I don't know what the last thing is going to be. What is it? But yeah, you know, hope y'all got yourself some handy dandy knowledge on, you know, computers, you know, on thermals, on temperatures, about your CPU and your GPU, mainly the GPU in this case. Hopefully this helps out some people out there that have, you know, pretty high temps and you want to go ahead and take care of that problem. Maybe this goes ahead and, you know, piques your interest to finally go ahead and check your temperature. What is it? Because maybe you're the type of person who never looked at it and you never checked and you wanted to know what you're averaging. Maybe this might encourage you to actually do so before you eventually kill off your, you know, computer on a certain hardware. So hopefully this video really helped someone out there. And if it didn't, either way, it's good information. I mean, hopefully some of you learned something new. And if you're a person that already knew this kind of stuff, well, hey, this is just a refresher for you. Anyways, if you want more videos like this that are pretty informative on certain stuff, let me know in the comments down below, because, you know, there's actually quite nice stuff to go ahead and actually make videos on, you know. This helps out you, and it also helps out me, you know. So let me know your feedback, if this helped you out, or if it didn't. Maybe you have some stuff that I didn't go over, that I missed out, that's actually pretty important information to know. You can put that in the comment. So yeah, remember, leave a like, leave a comment, you know, subscribe if you're brand new. If you want to support me a little extra, there's available options in the description down below of certain links on how you can support me, or even join a Discord server. Other than that, I'll see you all in the next video, and dogs out, barber, peace, #FURRYPACK, RXD.